One engineer running 1,000 AI agents at once. That's the top of a ladder. Boris Cherny, creator of Claude Code, published this week. Most engineers are stuck on rung 1. I run about 100 agents a week. Here's the ladder, where you sit on it, and the cost trap almost nobody mentions. So who is Boris Cherny? He created Claude Code, Anthropic's coding agent. This July, he posted this thread. His observation: at company after company, one person is getting 10 times the output with Claude while the rest of the team hasn't caught up. Watching teams adopt AI, he kept seeing the same steps and mapped them into a ladder. This framework is his. Here's the whole ladder at a glance. Boris numbers it 0 through 4. 4 steps of adoption, above a step 0 where AI is locked out entirely. What changes between steps is how many AI agents one engineer runs at once. Step 0. Gated, no agents. Step 1. Assisted, about 1. Step 2. Parallel, around 10. Step 3. Supervised autonomy, roughly 100. Step 4. AI native, 1,000 or more. Each jump is a full order of magnitude. Look at those numbers again, because the jumps are the whole story. 0 agents. 1. 10. 100. 1,000 and beyond. Each step up isn't 10% more productivity. It's 10 times the concurrency. You go from doing the work, to pairing with an agent, to orchestrating a team, to managing managers, to steering a fleet you rarely touch by hand. Now the thesis. Boris says there's no one right path, and that tokens aren't enough to move you forward. Spending more on AI does not level you up. To climb a step, you find the next bottleneck, break it down, and build the next set of guardrails so the output can be trusted. Adoption isn't measured in tokens burned. It's measured in how much work you've automated and actually trust. Start at the bottom. Step 0, gated. 0 agents in real use, the organization that blocks itself. Only older or lighter models are approved. Access to AI tools is locked behind process, and there's no clean path to ship what Claude helps create. The bottleneck isn't technology. It's legacy security and approval habits, and a culture that optimizes for cost per token containment instead of outcomes. Step 1. Assisted, U+1 agent, working as a pair. This is where most engineers are right now. The upside is real. A change that used to eat an afternoon becomes something you finish between meetings. But look at the bottleneck. You don't trust the output yet, so you read every response and every edit. The work is synchronous. You sit and watch Claude instead of moving to the next task. So how do you climb from step 1 to step 2? Boris gives a recipe, and I'll stick to exactly what the doc recovers. Run more than one agent at a time. Build a self-verification loop you trust, so Claude checks its own work with tests before you do. Turn on auto mode, so permission prompts stop blocking you. And default to automated code review. Notice the shape. Every rung adds 1 part capability, 1 part guardrail. At step 2, you become an orchestrator. One engineer drives 5 to 10 agents at once, each in its own work tree, jumping between them. Before any of it reaches you, Claude runs the tests, the build, the lint, and a security scan on its own work. You stop reading keystrokes and start reviewing final diffs. A backlog that used to take the team weeks becomes one engineer's afternoon. The jump from step 2 to step 3 is about context and delegation. First, give Claude a way to pull in context. Let it read your code, your wikis, your team discussions, even the parts owned by other teams. Second, break your work into repeatable loops and routines instead of one-off prompts. And third, the real breakthrough, let Claude kick off Claude. Step 3. Supervised autonomy. Now you're a manager of managers, on top of an org tree of roughly 100 agents. Claude writes nearly all of the code. The question changes too. It's no longer did you read the code. It becomes, what context was the model missing and how do we fix it next time? And maintenance now runs continuously in the background. Here's where I come in, because this is roughly where I work every day. And I won't oversell it. This is just my setup. I write delegation briefs and hand each one to a separate executor session. I run parallel subagents on independent tasks. I spawn them in isolated work trees so they don't collide. And I keep automated maintenance loops running in the background. None of it is exotic. It's just disciplined delegation. Boris names a trap at this step, and I fight it every day. The trap is scaling your agent count before the loop has earned trust. 100 agents stacked on a process you can't yet rely on. 2 disciplines keep me honest. First, I don't add agents until the loop has proven itself. Second, token efficiency. Cheap models on the grunt work. The premium model saved for the calls that need judgment. Now the honest part, the limits. Even at step 3, there's work I still won't fully hand to an agent. Architectural decisions stay with me. So does anything touching money or authentication. My reasoning, reviewing after the fact can catch a typo, but it can't recover a wrong architectural turn. By then, the cost is baked in. So agents move fast on reversible work, and I keep a hand on the rest. Step 4 is AI native, and honestly, almost nobody is fully here yet. 1,000 or more agents run at once, and most are kicked off by Claude, not by a person. You stop steering agent by agent. You steer by intent and monitor by exception, stepping in only when something trips an alarm. The payoff Boris describes, the migration that used to eat a whole quarter, becomes a workflow you kick off and check on. So what runs a fleet like that? The Claude Agent SDK, the same loop and the same tools that power Claude Code, now programmable. Here it is in about 10 lines of Python. You import query and options, hand it a prompt, find and fix the bug, and allow it a small set of tools. Read, edit, run a command. Claude reads the file, finds the bug, and fixes it. But here's the cost reality nobody puts on the slide. By default, the Agent SDK bills against API credits. You set an API key, and every token is metered at the full rate. Now my numbers. I measured my own usage logs, so this is measured, not audited. My $200 a month max plan, at my Opus and Fable-heavy agentic workload, delivers roughly $10,000 a month of API rate value. That's a 50 times gap. So is there a documented way to pay by subscription instead? Yes, with a caveat. You run Claude Setup Token, which needs a Pro or Max plan, and it prints a 1-year token. Export it as the OAuth token environment variable. One documented gotcha. An API key, when set, wins, so unset it to fall back to your subscription. And bear mode never reads that token. Reading this as fine for personal automation is my inference, not a quoted guarantee. Now, the honest warning, this lever is real today but explicitly temporary. Back in May, Anthropic announced that from June 15th, Agent SDK and script usage would leave your subscription pool for a separate monthly credit, $20, $100, or $200 at full API rates. Then on June 15th, the day it was to take effect, they paused it. It's still paused, with no new date. They say they'll give notice before anything changes. Before the recap, 3 guardrails on the ladder itself. First, Boris says it plainly, there's no one right path. Every team is different. Second, the agent counts are shorthand for orders of magnitude, not targets to chase. And third, my own caveat. This ladder is drawn by the company selling the elevator. That's not a knock. The shape is useful, but trust the shape and verify the pace against your own results. So, which step are you on? Here's the fastest way to locate yourself. If you read every diff by hand, you're at step 1. If you're juggling 5 to 10 agents across work trees, that's step 2. If you manage an org tree of agents and ask what context the model missed, that's step 3. And if agents mostly launch other agents while you steer by intent, you're at step 4. Be honest about the tell. It beats the ambition. 3 takeaways to carry out. 1. Measure your AI adoption in trusted automated work, not in tokens burned. That's the whole reframe. 2. Every step up the ladder is the same shape, a bottleneck to break and a guardrail to build. 3. Check your auth before you automate, because the subscription lever is real today but explicitly temporary. If this helped you place yourself on the ladder, subscribe. That's the only ask.